Welcome to Dynamic Destiny. I'm your host, Coach Pete Cafarcio. I love to help people discover their life purpose and make a positive impact in the world. Whether you have a global dream or just want to make a difference in your corner of the world, we'll help you get clarity on your calling and give you practical tools to get unstuck and accelerate your goals. Join me for this episode of Dynamic Destiny. Hey, my friends, this is Coach Pete coming to you from New York City. I'm so glad you tuned in, and I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today to talk about an important topic as we move you forward toward your destiny. And I want to introduce you to Wes Anderson. I first met Wes through my brother. They were coworkers, and my brother put Wes in touch with me, just maybe some casual advice on helping him move through a software concept that he was considering. And boy, we just hit it off. Wes immediately comes across as a really thoughtful, mature guy. And Wes has a rare mix. Oftentimes you find people that are entrepreneurial, they're idea people, they're very futuristic, but then they go maybe kind of light on the details. But Wes also has this discipline and structure. He's got them both. He's got both sides, the left brain and the right brain. And that makes him really an extraordinary individual. Wes helps other people discover and grow in God and God's purposes for their life. So I thought he'd be a great guest on this show. He's also an inventor, an investor, an engineer. He does it during his day job, an author, and he's a founder of Clarion Solutions Group. That's a privately funded multi-business enterprise. But before we talk much more, I'm going to have Wes read our quote for the day. So Wes, let's hit it.
All right. Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. That's by C.S. Lewis.
All right. Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Thank you, C.S. Lewis. So yeah, that's going to be our topic today too, is about how adversity and trials and setbacks, if you press through them, they can shape your destiny and actually give you the ability to do extraordinary things. So Wes, tell us a little bit more about yourself and, where are you? Tell us about your family, anything, what you like to do.
Yeah, so I've been married for over 12 years now, close to it. I got a son, he's 9. His name is Elijah. We live in the beautiful country of South Georgia. We got fireflies and deer and wildlife and fields and streams, and so it's great. Personally, so I have a vision to continue to launch this company, and the mission is to give away 50% of our profits to missions-based groups and also groups that are focusing on helping people with real needs, like physical needs, food, shelter, and clothing.
That's
the
awesome.
Vision, yeah. So the vision is to donate 40 million by 2040, and that's the vision. If we launch for the moon, if we get past the street light, I'm fine with that too. So
40, I love it. 40 million by the year 2040. That's awesome.
Yes, sir. Yes,
right.
sir.
Well, Wes, so our topic today is, trials, adversity, setbacks, and how if we work through those and get through life, they can actually work to shape our destiny and make us even more effective so we can do extraordinary things. I thought of you to bring you in as a guest. Let's unpack that a little bit. So how's it been playing out in your life?
Yeah. So for me, without a test, there is no testimony. And if you don't have adversity, then you really can't walk in the destiny that is for you. And the way I see it too is, it's really important to understand how we view life. I mean, everything that we see dictates the results which we get. And how we view tests is also very important. We can view them as either an opportunity, and if we view them as such, they'll generate hope. They'll generate energy. They will generate performance and results. But we can also see them as threats. If one goes to take a test at a university in mathematics, they could see that as highly threatening. And if we view test as a threat, it does the opposite. It creates hopelessness. It reduces the energy. It actually creates stress. So I think, first of all, it's just important to understand, how do we view adversity? What's our view?
Well, Wes, that's great, because our everything around us in our culture, in media, in society wants you to think that comfort and ease is what you should be aiming for, and anything that goes against that, we actually, I think, we don't know how to handle it anymore. It's like, if your idea is to espouse, like, hey, things should be easy and comfortable and everything, then when setbacks or trials come, it's like bad. It's I don't, this isn't the way life should be. Why? And I'm a victim and things. And what you just highlighted there is your attitude going through it. First part of that is, hey, this is life. If you don't ever expect trials, you're going to get knocked on your butt. I'm like, it's life. This is you should expect it. And if you can expect it, then you start to prepare ahead of time and get some mindsets and get some attitudes that can help you navigate through it. And like you said, make the best of it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That, we are not promised a pain-free life. It's just not, it's not in the books. And, but it's not a matter of necessarily having no pain, but how do we respond in it? And that's actually how I came into this world. In fact, when I was born, the doctors had given me a 5% chance of survival.
What?
So a 95% probability that I would not be here today.
Wow.
And basically, it was due to two very critical illnesses back to back that happened to me. But what was interesting is my parents had named my middle name Daniel because of that. And now Daniel means courage. And, courage is generally defined as strength in the face of pain. Strength in the face of pain. And so what's interesting about pain when it comes to tests and testimony is whether we leverage it properly. And I've actually found, especially when it comes to entrepreneurial work, that the greatest hindrance to success is usually fear, but fear is originated in pain. It has its roots inside pain. And so what typically happens is we'll either project pain onto a future test or the pain from past tests.
So it'll just remind you. It'll remind you, like, oh man, I went through this before. I don't want to do it again. Just run from it.
Yes. Yeah. And so the fear of the repeated pain. And what's interesting, Pete, is that it's sometimes not about the fear of the results of the adversity as much as it is about the fear of the test and the adversity itself. My son is going through an issue with his skin, and I took him to the doctor yesterday, and he was fine. He was sitting there on the table, and all of a sudden that doctor comes in and he says, all right, take your shirt off. And he said, I've got to test this now. And as soon as he said that, my son just started flipping out completely, just scared. He just started crying.
I'm getting triggered right now thinking of it when I was a kid. Like, doctors are scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I realized something about what he was going through. And it was that it wasn't the result of the test that kept him from going through it. It was the thought of the pain that would be experienced through it. And I realized that many people are like that. See, pain and the fear of pain through trials, it shrinks life. But when we learn to operate outside of fear, and courage is not the absence of fear. It's not the absence of danger, but is what we have in the midst of it. But when we learn to operate with courage, we can go through adversity and therefore have a testimony. But many people don't have testimonies because they never go through test because of fear of pain.
So the fear just shuts them down.
Yes.
Yeah. And
yes.
like the example that you gave there, it's like we just, maybe it's human nature. We just tend to overblow it. Like it's going to be way, way worse. I've often heard fear as an acronym being a false evidence appearing real.
Right.
Is like,
right.
it's not true. We blow it way, way out of proportion and think it's going to be terrible. And you said, Wes, a little bit earlier, I just want to backtrack. You said in your experience, that's the number one thing that shuts down entrepreneurial ventures is fear.
I think so, Pete. And the reason is because of risk. So when a person is operating in a state of courage, it's not that there's no risk. It's just the fact that the projected pain that they have associated to that risk is much lower. So they're able to take.
Could you repeat that? That was really key. Could you say that again?
Yeah. So it's not that there is no risk. It is that when one has courage, the projected pain associated to that risk becomes much lower. And as the pain level is lowered, they're then able to go through that specific risk endeavor. And unfortunately, fear is, of course, as we're saying, it's originating with a pain. So many people don't take risks simply because of the fear of pain.
Wow.
And it's a big deal.
There's like, these are some really powerful concepts. This is, I'm going to listen to this again and unpack that and meditate it. But my friend, you are in the midst, like you started Clarion Partners, right? And this is something you're doing. You've been an inventor. Let's hear some specific stories of how you've applied some of these principles. Like how have facing these adversities, like you're talking courage. I love it, but a lot of people can talk a game on courage. You're living it out. Let's hear some of the ways that you've really applied these.
What I've learned about testing and adversity is sometimes tests and trials and things. It's almost like fire. It reveals what's on the inside of you. And for me, it started off as actually revealing a heart issue. Until someone goes through a specific trial, you don't really know what's on the inside of you. That trial of that fire brings it out to the surface so you can actually deal. But for me, early on, I was involved with a project that dealt with a critical manufacturing process, and I completed a design study. We had an ROI. We had cost savings. It was pretty significant. It was like nearly $300,000 over a five-year span. After implementation, I thought my work was done, and so the guys are moving the equipment around. They're shuffling around. And I was walking by, and I was asked to grab a broom and get to sweeping. And the first thought was, wait a minute, I'm the design guy. I'm the engineer responsible for this thing. A broom, No. That's that. The broom is for the cleaning crew. I'm above that, Yeah. And I'm just revealing my slimy secrets here, but I grabbed it, and on the first day, I was just angry, and I was sulking while I was sweeping. I can't believe I'm sweeping on the floor when my role in my mind was much, much higher. Day 2, I realized that the task revealed that I had pride. Mm-hmm. That test had revealed that pride had came out, and I faced it. And what was interesting about it, though, is day 3, man, I swept that floor like it was the Ritz-Carlton. I gripped that broom with joy and gratitude and just finished that test. But what was interesting, Pete, was that exactly 2 weeks later, I received a phone call from a recruiter for a job. And the type of project that I just finished would be this role's very first responsibility. It was a perfect segue, and the salary was nearly twice as what I was making. But for me, passing that test that dealt with my heart issue was the key that unlocked a new career door. It was the determinant factor for a new testimony.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. I'm reminded of a statement that I think Zig Ziglar talked about. He said, "Your attitude determines your altitude." And you choosing to have a better attitude, seeing where you had a pride issue, but then making a choice, I'm going to have a better attitude, released you then to get ready for your promotion, which was then a higher altitude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So tying it to today, Clearance Solutions Group. My wife is the most courageous person that I've ever met, but she has the least amount of strength of anyone I've ever known. She has muscular dystrophy, and she can't lift anything more than probably a pound.
Wow.
But talk about courage. I mean, she is just full of it. I've been her caretaker since we've got married, and we've had some significant challenges. And one thing about, when it comes to adversity and trials is when you have a pain point, it's always wise to ask, what solution can I bring to this pain? So with her situation and with many other women that are wheelchair bound, a major pain point is being able to use the restroom. I mean, it's just a fact,
Sure.
It's really difficult.
You can't take her into a public restroom if you're together, right?
Yeah. I mean, it certainly impedes, the ability to travel. There's just a lot of issues there. So, if I'm not available, if I'm away, having the ability to do transfers and so many other things can be quite challenging. But for me, I looked at that and I looked at her specific pain, and I thought, okay, there's a solution for this pain. So I went to the workshop. I created a prototype, a specific medical device which would essentially address her situation, and it worked. It worked beautifully. She used it for about a year. It changed her life. It changed her health. She I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. The outcome of that was I was able to invest some funding into the development of a team of engineers and marketing folks to actually begin to take this thing off of the ground. And today's, it's just been fantastic. We have an approved provisional patent. We've already successfully completed preliminary human trials, and right now we're in the process of lining up contracts with medical companies. So all of that is to say that we have this incredible testimony of a product that was a result of adversity. And had I not, stood back and really reflected on it and thought about it, I probably wouldn't be where we are today. So I'm very, very thankful for that.
Wow. That's really cool. And we wish you the best for that thing to really take off. It sounds like you've tapped into a need that maybe a lot of people aren't really talking about. They feel it. It's very limiting. That's awesome, though. It's awesome how you took what was handed to you, and you're not thinking victim, right? But how can we deal with that? That's awesome. Well, hey, folks, I'm with my guest Wes Anderson, and we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more. Hi there, Coach Pete here, and I'm so excited to tell you about a new course that we just released, Decoding Your Destiny. Over the past 20 years, I've worked with hundreds of people to curate the very best tools that will help you get more clarity on your life purpose and calling. The course uses 8 very easy to follow short videos and online fillable worksheets that help you record your answers and capture new insights. You're sure to get greater clarity on your life purpose and know specifically how you can make the best difference in the world. Go to petecoaching.com and look for online courses. I can't wait for you to get greater clarity and understanding for your destiny. Well, I'm here with my guest, Wes Anderson. We're talking about how adversity can help to shape your destiny if you press in to the pain and look for the gold that's in there and don't give up. Wes, so we've had a great time talking with you. And any other thoughts on this topic?
Adversity is so powerful in that it reveals what's on the inside of you that you may not be aware of, but it also helps you to propel from the pain that it sometimes creates. So yeah.
Okay. Well, Wes, I think it's time for our Make It Real challenge. And here's your practical tip for everyone who's listening. We want you to identify a test that's happened in your life. Maybe it's recent. Maybe it's something that you've just in your past and you've just buried it and you didn't even want to think about it again. There's gold in that test if you take a look at it. And it's going to take some courage in some cases. It might have been something super painful. Here's the Make It Real challenge. Take that test, write it down, and we want you to review and reflect on the results. And by the way, you might think that it was ended in a failure. Okay. It might not have been a successful thing that you came through on the other side, but it was still a trial that you faced, some kind of adversity. Look at it and reflect. What did you learn? Okay. First thing that's going to do is it's going to help you switch from looking at a situation as a win versus lose. Okay. Or a pass versus fail. Okay. And instead, if you could just say, hey, let's remove a sense of whether I won or lost and say, what did I learn? Gee, now you can be a winner every time. If your measure of winning is I learned something, there you go. What did you learn from that trial, from that adversity? And we want you to write it out. Just start writing out, what did you learn? What can you now pass on to other people that you learned? Yeah. Anything you can add to that, Wes?
No, Pete, I think that's absolutely dead on. Is after you go through adversity or test, review the results. Review the results by maybe asking questions. How did I respond to it? What is it that I learned from it? A lot of people, they end up repeating the same test over and over and over, like a vicious cycle, because we just simply fail to reflect on the results.
Yeah. So you've heard, I've heard this also positioned as don't waste your trials. You paid a lot for the trial in pain. Don't waste it. It was expensive. So learn what you can from it. All right. Well, Wes, hey, it's been great having you here. Is there anything that if our listeners, if they'd like to get in touch with you or, gain some of your wisdom, how could they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so probably the best way is they could send me an email. It's Wes, the @ ClarionSolutionGroup.com. Wes at ClarionSolutionGroup.com. I'd be glad to set up a free appointment and we can talk further about just business or life guidance or anything spiritual as well.
Okay, great. And I'll put that in the show notes as well. So check that out and you get a link. Hey, today it was great to have Wes on. We were talking about how adversity handled properly can help shape your destiny. And it doesn't have to be something that you run from, and it doesn't have to be something you bury. If you take a good look at it, find out what you learned and face it with courage, you can really accomplish some great things. I want to repeat the quote for the day. Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. That's from C.S. Lewis. I want to thank my guest, Wes Anderson, for joining us. Wes, thanks so much for your time and your stories here. This has been Coach Pete. Remember, you really are God's gift to the world. We need you to be the best version of you that you can be. Bye-bye. Thank you, my friend, for joining me on this episode of Dynamic Destiny. As a reminder, you can get more free tools and downloads at petecoaching.com. Let's continue the discussion. Write to me with your questions and feedback. Ask Pete at petecoaching.com. Be sure to tell your friends, and please leave a 5-star podcast review. I can't wait to have you join me next time on Dynamic Destiny.